Yes, so that's the major thing about having trust is the protection and to keep you away from interacting with the public. You let them have their machine, you stand back and just as the beneficiary and you just accept the benefits that you create.
And a lot of people are talking about this 1099 stuff, and I have to say this every time because I get pounded with questions. So if I keep getting pounded with questions, I'm gonna keep saying it until we can curb some of it. The government is not gonna pay your bills. Now, if you're set up in a trust a certain way, you can mirror what they're doing, but you can't take something from somebody else's trust. That would be like on the flip side, saying that Al has a trust and I used to own a home before he bought it and I lost it in foreclosure. And then I'm going to go take Al's home out of his trust and take it back from him. You can't do that. The government is set up a trust. That's true. All the civics and stuff about in the history is true up until the part where they start talking about the birth certificate and they start talking about the government paying your bills. That those instruments that they're um, using have to be backed by something. It's no, the birth certificate has no face value on it, so it's not an instrument. It's like a certificate of title for your car. Where where is the value? What is it backed by when you're sending these instruments off? Now, if you set your trust up correctly, like what we're trying to get you guys to do, like these guys that be paying 100, 200,000, 50,000 to get asset protection, we're trying to offer something to the community at a decent price. And you can actually get your trust certificates once we fix it up for you and you put value in there. Now you can go leverage that
Right.
and that's kind of the thing that people get mixed up. Now the assets in your trust, you can write a bond or a promissory note off of, but now it's actually backed by something. You're leveraging your assets. So if you
Right.
got 10 or 15 houses inside of your trust, you can go to the bank with your trust certificates and get a line of credit or a loan to go do something else and then pay that back and get your certificates back. But you
And
can't
that
go in there with a promissory note backed by your birth certificate and then tell them, yeah, the government's going to pay for it. They're going to throw it in the trash.
right, but that's the magic of the trust right there as he explained to you. That's why you're putting all your assets in there so now you can write up a bond or bill of exchange or promissory note backed by your trust asset or property. Now, when you need down payment money, you want to buy an apartment complex or get into some bigger and better deals. Well, that is your collateral. And remember, your collateral is insured, so it's always protected. So even if you're using that as collateral, your collateral is still protected by the insurance. So if anything that would go bad in a deal, your collateral could never get touched. That's a very important fact about when you think about it when you write up the instruments. That's giving you your protection.
And that's why you saw last time, like Lehman Brothers and all of that, that they were so concerned about the crash in '08. And this is what I'm trying to get you guys ready for. You can be on the other side of the fence. They bankrupt the insurance companies. That's why everybody was so worried. So the people that were set up correctly, when they start losing all of their homes and their rental properties, they ran all over the Lehman Brothers and popped their insurance policy for their trust. Well, Lehman Brothers couldn't cover. They couldn't cover everybody. It was like a run on the bank. So that actually ended up not working out for them. And you're seeing it right now in China. It's a company called Evergreen. You can pull them up, and they're teeter totting. They're having a huge real estate crisis right now in China, and Evergreen is tied into some of our insurance products. So you're starting to see the collapse happen, and it's happening slowly. It's just not hitting us yet because we're on the lower tier of it. But all of the wealthy people are already seeing it. Just like you see a lot of the CEOs and stuff step down in 2021. If you ever see in the future a whole bunch of CEOs start retiring, something's coming down the pike that ain't good because they get to see it first because they're doing the business. The other thing I want you to cover because he helped me understand a lot of it is the ownership thing. If you want to talk about that a little bit, Al, or why people can't see the benefits of the trust because everybody wants to own everything.
Right. Well, I'll start off by saying there's only one company in this country, and it's the United States Treasury. They own everything. That's why you have to have a number, a EIN number, or a social security number, or some type of tax identification number to do anything. So when you're being penalized when you try to own things, so we wonder why the taxes are so high and on our house taxes and our taxes on our car. It's because you try to own it. Take it in reverse. You have a car, right? You when you own the car, you got to pay for insurance. You got to pay for gas. You got to pay the payments on the car. That's all. That's all detrimental to your finances. When the trust is paying for it, all these things become write-offs. So you're not really spending the money. You're getting it back at the end of the year in taxes in the wash. Things like your mortgage payments become write-offs. Even vacations become write-offs. Because the trust, you're just acting as the beneficiary. The trust is doing this for the betterment of your life. So all things, and also that's why you would, even if you have a job, you would go lean up your trust. You have your trust lean you up so you can go into your human resources department and change the way that they pay out to the trust instead of yourself. That's automatically killing the tax burden from you having to go to work if you're still in the job mode. But the ownership is where we miss it. Once we stop trying to own things and just solely look to control them, that's when we start winning because all the liability is in ownership. Ownership equals responsibility. That's all. That's what I always say. So anytime you say you own something, you're really saying I'm taking responsibility for anything that happens with that. Why would we do that? You just want to use this stuff.
You can't take it with you. What you're doing is accumulating assets that are free and clear so you can pass them on to your beneficiaries, which in most cases is going to be your children. And
Correct.
that's the point. That's the whole point of you saying you own something so that you can give it to your kids upon your departure from here. So nobody can ever own everything. They're just, and what's happened is you've got these families that turned into cities, that turned into states, that turned into countries. This has been going on. This is an ancient thing. It's been going on since Babylon. So they've been, if you want to learn some good history, look up the East Indian Trading Company. You can type that in on YouTube and you can actually see where the first corporations and stuff of recent times started and how they're still around. They own a majority of everything behind the scenes. And study the spice trade. They were big in that too. So a lot of the
Yes.
stuff that people and what happens is people hear this information and then you want to jump straight to the top with the trust stuff, but then you got a 580 credit score, you don't got a business set up, it's not cash flowing. Like this stuff happens in steps. It's not going to happen like next week you sign up and then boom, you got $1 million. You've been doing it the wrong way all of this whole time, and you got to work yourself up. And that's why we're talking about starting a fund with the people that we're working with as far as in the trust. So now we can start pooling people's money together and getting in investments because the interest rates are going to be too high for you to go talk about buying anything unless you're doing like tax liens or deeds. But that's going to be something that you specialize in. That's not for like the general public. And then even with that, you're going to have to refinance it and have a high interest rate. So you're going to want to be able to have some sort of cash or alternative measures to get that on a credit card or something like that with a 0 point or a lower interest rate. So I would really consider thinking about it. This is how I think about it. If I don't have any money or no trust fund, if I can get, $50 to $60,000 worth of funding and invest that, and then co-sign my business and get another 50 to 100, now I got $210,000 worth of leverage. You know what I mean? Now I can go on ahead and get my assets that I'm buying, whether I'm doing deed sales or real estate, or I got a car wash or whatever your business is, hair shop, nails. Now you can get that money and those assets and get them into your trust free and clear, and get that trust, that value, because that's really going to be the thing that's going to get you up there over the top. And by the time that
Yeah,
this whole thing comes back, now you got your trust set up and you're able to start doing the stuff the correct way. And then you've been buying on the way down, seizing these opportunities. There's going to be people that are going to be just trying to get rid of stuff. And even though there's a bad economy, there's going to be deals out there because people die, pass on, they're not set up right, they have estate sales, they're going to be having foreclosures. And if you got your credit and stuff correct, this is when these big companies make a lot of money.
that's true. And going back to what you were saying about having a company, make sure and having it set up right, make sure that you know what your position is as a CEO, and that connects to ownership. You do not own the company. You can only simply work for it. So remember that, because that becomes important when it comes to tax time. Oh, you can finish.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It becomes very important. And that's the other thing is tax shelters. Like that is how wealthy people really get rich. Finding different ways, because it's cool to make the money, but then how you gonna hold on to it? That's the punishment thing that they do. So that's why you see a lot of wealthy people, they'll start foundations and